Further ado, let's have the Federation's nemesis, Commander Kharn, Richard Hatch.
Star Trek. For nearly 50 years, it has inspired us, enlightened us, thrilled us.
Now, the opposing forces, Garth Avizar, Executive Producer Alec Peters. Co-producer Charles Lauzirika.
To the biggest blockbuster Star Trek has given birth to.
We have line producer Mike deMeritt.
From as many creative voices as the
Yay!
sky and all of that.
And Diana Kingsbury, also co-producer and fulfillment goddess extraordinaire. Good morning, everybody. And so, Alec, everyone's eager that you guys just kicked the private donor Kickstarter, Indiegogo, actually, a few days ago. What's the status of things? How's it looking? There's a switch there on yours. Is your switch on? There we go.
Indiegogo says $178,000 after
In
2 days.
2 days. 2 days.
180.
So how's the production coming along? How's it coming from your side? The sets, we've seen some shots in there of Aries Studios. What's it looking like?
First, I apologize. I kind of lost my voice. I'm trying to get it. Next time, I will remember not to launch an Indiegogo campaign the first day of San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah, the campaign's going great because, listen, we're up here. We do what we do because of donors. The donor base drives Axanar as it does all crowdfunding campaigns. We learned early on how important that is, and we're still learning. I mean, we're not. It's kind of funny because a lot of indie film campaigns are coming to us now for help, and I'll tell you, we're still learning. But we're very fortunate to have Diana Kingsbury running the fulfillment program for all our donors. So if you're a donor and you're getting packages in the mail, you need to thank her. But I stress that because, you know, we can sit here all day long and talk about Axanar and talk about what a great film it's going to be and what a great cast we have and so on and so forth. But it all happens because people like you give us $10, $100, you know, $1,000, whatever the case may be. So we're very cognizant of our donor base. Where we are right now is our last Kickstarter, which ended a year ago, where we raised $638,000. That money went to develop our studio. After Prelude to Axanar, things started changing for us. We no longer had the goal of just making a really top-notch fan film. It became, wow, we could do something really, really different. As we used to say in the tech industry, disruptive. And it's all around building a studio and producing not just great Star Trek, but other great genre fare with other talented filmmakers like Charlie here, a good friend of mine. So the studio, we rented a facility. I signed a 3-year lease. We started converting that facility. If you've seen the pictures online, and do go to our website because I write a daily blog. I don't know what other film writes a daily blog about what's happening on the production. Every day I tell you, here's what's happening. Here's where the sets are. We post photos. Here's who we've met with. Here's who's on the cast, whatever. That's really important. And so we've been building the sets. Many of you have seen. How many of you have seen the photographs of our bridge set? It's looking amazing. It is. You know, there's 3 other original series bridge sets in the country. Ours is the only one that's been built by professional set builders and fully flies, meaning every piece of that is on casters and it moves. Literally one person can push one section around. And it's a 360-degree bridge, which is, you know, rare and unusual. So the bridge set's coming along great. We are in Bill Hunt, who joined me as co-writer on this venture a few weeks ago, and I are through the first 3 acts and are about to tackle Act 4, which is a big one, which is the Battle of Axanar. And so we should have the script fully revised here in the next, I would say, week, 10 days. And then and we're heavy in pre-production. Unfortunately, Rob Burnett, our director, couldn't be here. But I think, how many of you know Rob Burnett from Free Enterprise? Okay, Rob is absolutely the biggest Star Trek geek in the world. He is a bigger Star Trek geek than me, and he is an accomplished. He's been in the entertainment industry 26 years. Wrote and directed Free Enterprise, and the love for Star Trek as well as his filmmaking capability shows in that piece up there. So we plan to shoot right now. I think we're going to push the shoot from November until January, just because we need the time for a few reasons. But every time we've delayed this production over the past 2 years, it's been a great decision. We've never regretted it once. As a matter of fact, Richard always tells me, take more time, take more time. So that's kind of where we are.
By the way, I'm sure, can you hear me? The sound is a lot
sorry.
better than what you just heard.
Yeah, that's
on that trailer. It was screwed up. I don't know what it was, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the soundtrack is by Alex Bornstein, who did Prelude to Axanar, who is, I always say it, and I'll say it again, will win an Academy Award one day. I guarantee you. This guy's music is amazing. So please listen to this online, and where the sound will be better. Yeah.
Charles, so what was your thoughts when shooting the first scene? You were there when Rob had taken the helm and started directing. How did the first set shoot go?
I mean, well, it's interesting because Rob, for those of you who've seen Free Enterprise, it's a comedy, and it doesn't have the same grandeur or visual, scale of a Star Trek film. So I was very curious to see how Rob would go from a more intimate comedy like Free Enterprise. He's done a lot of television as well, and I was frankly stunned and surprised and overjoyed that he went for a big scope with a big widescreen look to the film, and he was also great with the actors. I mean, seeing Rob direct that one day was a joy, because Rob and I have been friends for over 20 years, and he's one of the most gregarious, just big-hearted guys you could meet, and he ran that set like a general, but a lovable general, like a big teddy bear general.
We were all laughing because
Yeah.
he'd go, freaking awesome.
Yeah. Well, his big word is, that's dope. So anyway, he was great to see him direct, and especially because it was a challenge. 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, nothing existed. It was like this was zero 4 weeks ago, and then this is now here. That's largely due to everyone on the crew, Alec and Rob, and it was like magic to see it kind of come together. Shot in a parking lot in Valencia on a green screen. It was like the most kind of ghetto, low budget, shoot you could imagine, and it was. Now it looks like it's a big, $200 million movie. But
it is movie magic because, and part of the reason it was successful was Rob and Milton DP planned it out. I mean, they came up one day. I was there, and they had they had the costumes out, and they were using two different cameras, a red and a something else, and then they looked at the footage and determined which camera was shooting those costumes better. And wow, I was like, that's incredible planning. And then Rob did animatics and everything. Now, also, Charlie did the first part of this video here. So Charlie came to me a week ago and said, I have a vision for how this needs to be. And he laid it out, and I was like, okay, direct it, go for it. And so tell us about that.
It was just the little intro before was meant to kind of, create a sense of what you're about to see, where Axanar has been, where it's at now, and where it's going. That was the key. And so we blatantly kind of ripped off the second trailer for The Abyss, which kind of starts with a little 16 millimeter making of, and then goes again kind of boxy, almost like a 4:3 aspect ratio, and then goes big and wide. It's that was the kind of goal here, was to make the scene seem bigger in comparison to the opening chunk. And then we did a little bit of the Star Wars Special Edition trailer, which was to degrade the image, make it kind of grainy and desaturated, and kind of change the color palette from the warm golden, Vulcan to kind of a cool blue, kind of archival look. So that was just a fun way to basically say, get ready, Axanar is coming. And we again, Rob and I cranked that out in 2-3 days, all-nighters, a lot of Jameson.
What?
Rob loves Jameson. You'll know that if you know Rob.
Actually, where a lot of directors and cinematographers use storyboards, I liked Rob's approach that he broke out his extensive collection of action figures and basically pre-visualized the scene shot for shot using action figures off the side of his pool. But everyone went into that set seeming like they pretty much had a clear idea because they'd seen it. They knew what he was looking for.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Rob is kind of well known for photographing his action figures. One of his neighbors, a daughter and her friend, these two little girls were just out in the neighborhood one day on their bikes, and they see this weird, like, middle-aged dude on his belly on the ground with a camera and an
The
action
driveway.
figure in the driveway, just taking pictures of his. I believe, I don't know if it was like Captain America or something, or it was Judge Dredd, his Judge Dredd
Dredd.
figure, yeah. And they thought he was like,
Well, what's going on?
what's going on? Who's this guy in our neighborhood? And then they gave the photo to their mom, and their mom knew Rob, and so she posted that, I think. So there's like this really kind of like surveillance-y looking, like almost NBC. What's the show with Chris? What's his face with the child molesters?
Oh,
It's kind of like looked like it was like really scary.
person of interest.
Something like that. But anyway, so yeah, Rob is well known for photographing his action figures, but that was a great kind of skill set to develop to visualize this scene. Was to actually use that smaller scale to plan his shots, so that when we got out to Valencia, he knew exactly what the lens would be, what the angle would be, what the composition would be.
Well, it wasn't just storyboarding. It was which Rob can't draw, so he used these not just to visual, but to plan the shots. And now that there's literally a great what's that great application for your phone? No. There's an application now that will allow your iPhone to simulate any professional camera.
Yeah.
Oh, you're using a red camera with a 50 millimeter lens, and you can simulate on your iPhone camera what it will look like if you're shooting a red camera. So Rob used that because Milton knew about it and told us. So there's all sorts of tricks. I was just so proud of Rob.
Artemis, that's what it's called.
Artemis, yeah. I was so proud of Rob because Rob gets that directing a film is an enormous amount of work, and he's willing to put that work in. And that was really, it was awesome. And he was working so hard beforehand to ensure that the day of the shoot, everything just went like this. And it did. We finished like an hour early.
Yeah.
And it was great. So
Not just before, though, because when I worked on Voyager, when I worked on Enterprise, one of the things that I wanted to see in this team was communication. Because the things that kill you, the things that kill money, the things that take time, the things that ruin your production is when one team thinks you're doing something different than the other team does. So Tobias was in the loop. Tobias did the visual effects. So he knew where the lens was, too. So when he created his background, if the focus was supposed to fall off at 3 feet, focus fell off at 33 feet. That's why it feels like it's there. A lot of mistakes that fan films make, and I've judged a few of them, is they just put someone up on a green screen and they put a flat background behind them, and there's just no sense of lens. And Rob was crystal with that, and with the DP, he was clear to Tobias. Tobias knew exactly what the shots were going to be. Saves you a lot of money, get a better result, and everyone's happy.
Actually, Mike, let's jump over to you since you kind of brought that up. From your experience in Voyager and Enterprise, what's it been like becoming engaged with this production?
It's different. I actually had Alec come. I teach a class at the New York Film Academy of Burbank, and I had Alec come because he had a different perspective. The thing about fan films, and I think it's a growing thing. There's a pyramid that's getting bigger, not smaller. Is that you're actually selling the product before it exists. It's your guys' faith that you like this idea that allows it to exist. Unlike the old model and the studio model where they say, okay, it's my faith, I'll put millions into it and pray that it turns out the way it's supposed to. I think the communication now has another direction, which is the fan input. The fans are on board. It's like they're on the set with you. Alec keeps them up to date, and in that way they're engaged. It's not as engaged as a producer would be. You're not, you may not have the skin in the game in a way that you're going to lose anything, but you're part of the process. And when you look at Alec's blogs and you look at the Facebook page, it's like my film is coming together. And that is what I really like about this instrumentation, this new media concept. I think it's going to grow. I think it's going to be more unionized. I think you're going to see a lot more of it. And I think it's exciting because it creates an environment where new ideas can be fostered with less risk. The dark side of it, of course, is there's no bottomless pit. If you're working at Paramount and you call them up and say, well, we didn't get this scene. We're going to have to go 20 hours to get this. Okay, go ahead. They'll authorize it. They write a check. That can't happen on this environment. You have what you've got, and that's all that you've got, and you must make it work. But still, I love this model. I love that there's an investment to the viewer before you're even writing the script, before anything happens. Everyone's on board. It's fantastic.
Richard, you've spoken a lot about this as far as independent productions, fan productions, fans kind of keeping properties that they love alive even after it's gone after the air. You've had a number of your own projects. Can you speak to you've spoken about what do you think about the whole fan production aspect, not just Axanar but in general?
First of all, this has to be terrifying to anybody from the studio here. I know you're not going to raise your hand, right? When you realize that it doesn't cost as much money as you think to create quality filmmaking. It takes talent. And yes, it's always nice to have money, but I hate to say it, money gets wasted, and so much money doesn't go on the screen. And I just think this model, you have to be more efficient. You have to also build up if you want to call it a relationship with the people that are supporting you, and a communication, and you almost feel an allegiance. It's like accountability, which doesn't exist in as you know, in most areas of our business. But accountability means we're accountable to the fans. We got to show you how that money is used, and we have to take our time and use it wisely and not waste it, because you're involved in this process. Every day you're supporting us, and if you need more money for something like this, if you see what you've done with the money, we've built a relationship of trust with you, and you're willing to come in and give that extra $50, $100, whatever it happens to be. And in the past, you couldn't even participate because you would have to have tens of thousands of dollars to be an investor. And I hate to say it, and those kinds of investments, generally speaking, you never saw your money come back. You didn't know what happened to it. In this case, you get to see from beginning to end where your money goes, how it's used, and you also feel that people are listening to you, and that you're more directly involved in the production, and that it's being made by people who are fans just like you. And so often, I hate to say it, productions like this are made by people who aren't fans. It's a business. But I think I love the more personalized relationship between the fans and the production and the people that are actually involved in making something they love, they care passionately about, and they really want to do something special for everybody that supported them. And I think this is going to grow into a whole new, I think the industry is going to have to recognize these productions. They're going to be on the level of studio productions, and it'll be smart for them to license, develop, revenue sharing with these kinds of projects, because so often they're not interested in creating this kind of programming for an audience out there that's hungry. Right now, there's no Star Trek show out there. There's no Firefly, no Battlestar. You got no Farscape. None of those shows. Why? So I think this is the beginning of a new day, and I think as he talked about, you start with, here you have Star Trek. You love this. You're going to have programming that we're all hungry for. But this is only the beginning. Now they can begin to venture into new ideas, new stories, new characters, and begin to build the bridge for all of you into new shows that the studios do not own, do not have licenses for. And then it's going to open up a whole new day when the studios don't own it. I imagine Firefly, had it not been owned by the studio, and you have 5 million dedicated fans for a show that was on for how many episodes? 12? Well, do you think those fans would pay $50, $100 a month to watch Firefly programming? Do you think? Anybody?
Yeah.
Well, 5 million fans times $100 is how much?
500 million.
Yes. You're talking about a lot of money per month, right? Under that business model, you'd be able to make Firefly episodes into perpetuity, and it would always be in your hands. You would be voting with your dollars whether you wanted to see more of that show, right? It wouldn't be in the hands of an executive in a boardroom who just doesn't like it. It doesn't fit their business model. And I hate to say it, their business model, it requires way, way more people to support the bureaucracy and the overhead that these big companies have, because they're deeply in debt. So I just think it's an exciting new day, and we're seeing the expertise grow every single day with all these fan films. You can't even call them fan films anymore. They're moving into indie productions. More and more professionals are involved. And hey, Ron Moore was a fan pitching for Star Trek. There's a lot of gifted, talented fans out there with great ideas, great vision, and I think a production like this is not only going to inspire, but I hope these guys have some kind of an educational thing going where you guys can bring in young filmmakers and really learn the art. And this is a big thing for me. Filmmakers never learn the business of filmmaking. They learn how to roll the camera, how to edit. They don't know how to deal with the logistics, how to put it together, how to make sure that they don't lose and waste their money so that they don't have enough money for post. And then they have no idea how they're going to distribute it. And I just think that what's nice about this production is they're not rushing to roll the camera. They're waiting until they have everything lined up, everything has been thought through, everything is well planned, everybody's on the same page. So when they do roll that camera, nothing's wasted. So I'm blown away. It's so great to be part of a production like this.
Can I add something onto that?
Yeah.
Richard, did you know that when Enterprise went down, they actually pitched that very concept of making it a magazine, something that you could, because by then the internet existed, something you could subscribe to. And they came up with a number. It was $22.50 a month. If the number of people who watched it paid $22.50 a month, it would get 4 episodes a month, and it could keep going. And the studio said, shut up. And they didn't want to hear it.
I know.
They don't want to think about it. It scares them. They have these relationships that have these long tendrils in them with a whole network system and all these other elements that are in play that everyone gets a taste, and you're basically cutting them out.
Well, you know, I don't know about you. How many Battlestar fans in here? Any Battlestar fans?
Everybody.
How did we get there?
I just want to say one thing about that. I traveled around the country for several years, and I watched the Battlestar fan, grow. It got bigger and bigger and bigger. And yet, Sci-Fi Channel was registering less and less fans watching the show. Why? Because they were basing it on the old Nielsen's. People don't watch TV the same way. Nobody wants to watch commercials. And if you didn't TiVo it and watch it within 24 hours, it didn't register. And they refused. They did not want to look at what was really happening. Why? Because it's ad-driven. Because they don't want to look at the reality that people aren't watching the ads. Okay? They get up and they leave. In fact, I hate to say it, when they watch it on that particular night, people go and channel surf, and sometimes they never come back. And they just decide, we're going to go buy the DVD at the end of the season, right? And watch it back to back, which is the way we're all watching, right? We don't want to watch. I don't want to wait, next week for Game of Thrones. I want to watch every single episode. And once you get into it emotionally, you want to see all of it. So I just think they've been very, very slow to change. Companies are always edgy and hungry in the beginning. They get too big. They slow down. They get caught up in old paradigms, old ways of doing things, old business models. And then, and this happens, I hate to say it, to everybody. The key is, how do you stay hungry? How do you stay at the cutting edge? And how do you not let that happen? But I think these indie productions, I just think they're going to, because there's a relationship to the fans and there's a responsibility, and I think the fans really are going to be sitting there going, okay, look, I'm supporting you. I'm giving you money. You need to be accountable to us. We're part of this equation. I think it's going to create a much more healthy relationship between the people who fund these productions and the people who are making them, and maybe create more responsibility how they use that money. And I think this kind of programming is going to open up a whole new avenue of distribution and creating programming that all of us, I don't know about you, but I'm a very hungry sci-fi fan. There's not enough quality sci-fi programming. Is that not true? So this is a whole new day, and this is the beginning of that.
Alec, as the writer, it must have been kind of an educational experience for you moving along. Did you have Kharn in the original inception for Prelude or Axanar, or just a general Klingon figure?
Yeah, it was. We actually wrote the character after we got Richard on board. I actually kind of knew what the soul of that character was. And when I first pitched Richard like 2.5 years ago, I think he had like 8 lines in the script. And I was like, trust me, we're going to write this together. And but I knew the character that I wanted, and I knew my favorite Klingon has always been Kang from Day of the Dove. Quiet, fierce, very passionate. And so Richard and I saw eye to eye on what Kharn should be. And once you know a character, if you don't just start writing lines, you have to develop the character first. Once you develop that character, Robert McKee always says the lines write themselves, and it's true. Once I knew who Kharn was, I knew what he would say. Put him in a situation, I'll tell you what he says. So you have to know that character first. So Richard and I have had many meetings about this, and he has input into the character, and so it's a real collaborative process that works out really well. So I'm really happy about the relationship.
Yeah, I think one of the nice things, again, is that there's such an incredible collaboration on this set. I mean, we're talking about communication. Everybody thinks they're a brilliant communicator, but as we all know, we generally tend to miscommunicate, and that can cause a lot of money, right? Getting wasted, time, energy. But there just seems to be, because it starts at the top, there seems to be a openness to listen to each other, and not to rush and to wait until everybody is on the same page. Everybody understands what's being done. And when it comes to the actors, it's you can attest to that. The discussion was, I never think about lines as much as I think about, what am I doing here? Am I able to is there enough here for me to bite into, to connect to bring this character to life? And I hate to say it, even one great scene, if you really have an opportunity to really do something that's going to allow you to really play that character, connect to the heart of that character, that's a fulfilling experience. But so often, it's in the beginning, characters aren't fully drawn. And I think filmmaking, it's not just about your leading characters. It's about every character being fully rendered, fully drawn, fully fleshed out, because it builds the reality and makes the film-going experience so much more powerful. So I was just very happy they were open to discussing it, and we were on the same page, and we're going to go away from maybe I don't want to call it the cliche, because there's been so many different Klingons, but really finding, here's a culture that is so sophisticated technologically. They're not just wild, crazy Klingons, They are a highly sophisticated, intelligent race. And yeah, they're like the 300 to me. They have the warrior spirit, the warrior code. But they are smart, they are intelligent, they are visionary, and they're way ahead of the equation. And I just love the fact that they were open to exploring that. And as I always tell people, for me, it's like playing Hamlet. It's a work in progress. I'm every day discovering more about Kharn. I love playing Tom Zarek, but this is probably turning out to be one of my most favorite characters. And I hate putting on prosthetics. I hate putting on all that, those chemicals and all that stuff. Actors hate being in the makeup chair for hours and hours. But I tell you, there's something about getting into costume for Kharn that is life-changing. And as I also said, which is a little funny, I never felt sexy as a human being until I dressed up like Kharn. I felt sexy, badass, mother, I'm telling you.
So Alec, in that development you mentioned, so did you start with script first, or did you start with Bible first for the Axanar world frame? As far as the universe and what the characters, sure you started writing the script when it first started?
Yeah, I really wrote my first story 25 years ago. My first Garth story, 25 years ago. And I still have it, and it sucks. Which is good, because yesterday I heard Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian, at the NASA panel, and he had the same thing. And I was like, oh, good, phew. Who is a big Axanar fan, by the way? No, Andy Weir is a big Axanar fan. I know you guys are Axanar fans. Charlie and Diana and I met him this morning, and he's just, it's great. He's the second author I've met. I met another very famous science fiction author, and I was like, oh my God, Aaron, I'm such a huge fan of yours. And he's like, Alec, I'm such a huge fan of Axanar, and it's like the coolest thing in the world. So in answer to your question, it's been developing over a long time, and honestly, they're parallel tracks. You come up with a character, and all of a sudden, Bill and I are writing, and we come up with a character, and all of a sudden you're writing a character you never thought would be in the script, but it fits, and you have a writing partner who you can bounce things off of, and you keep each other honest. That's important. But there's not really a Bible for Axanar. It's kind of it's in Prelude to Axanar, I think, is the best Bible for what Axanar is about. So I assume everyone's seen Prelude, right?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Charles, actually, they were in the conversations about kind of the involvement of fans to the films. It seems that kind of like the precursor to the modern day, it really is the special features on Blu-rays and DVDs and everything. A lot of the work that you've done, it kind of bridges that people that look behind the scenes to kind of go, this is what was part of it. Do you think those sorts of things still have a good place to engage people, back with independent productions, with crowdfunding and that sort of thing?
Do special features do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I was in film school a little over 20 years ago at USC, in the study center, we would go look at Laserdiscs, the Criterion Laserdiscs, and listen to audio commentaries. And that was an amazing education to learn from directors, just scene by scene, telling you what their motivations were, what their ideas were, how they dealt with problems. And so when I started producing special features for DVD and then Blu-ray, I tried to take a very journalistic approach versus the glossy promotional, everyone's a genius, kind of featurette. I want to get into the problems. I think the problems of filmmaking are fascinating because if you can show people kind of like, enduring a challenge and then getting to the finish line with great work, that's the greatest triumph of all, is when you see them go from 0 to 100 versus these projects or these promotional pieces that make you seem like, oh, everything was fine. Everything was easy. Everyone was, getting along perfectly. I love stories where you see what the challenges are, what the logistical problems are, how people overcame it. That's where you learn. So yes, I think special features are very, when they're done right, are very helpful, I think, to up and coming filmmakers. They were to me when I was starting out. And then when I actually directed my first feature, I'm lucky because I've gotten to watch other directors work, like Ridley Scott and Michael Bay and Mark Webb, and it's just kind of fun to see these different filmmakers kind of deal with problems. And then when you're on set, you kind of like channel them as best you can, except you're not working on a $200 million movie, but you're thinking, okay, well, that's how they dealt with it. How would I deal with my version of that? So and Rob also comes from like a behind the scenes documentary background. So he worked with like Bryan Singer and I think some other filmmakers. So he's got the same sort of background, the virtual background to fall back on. Except now he's directing Star Trek, which has been his dream since forever, and it's wonderful to see him realize that dream.
Can I ask you a question on that? Because we're entering in a streaming life now. One of the things I miss, I love Netflix, but I wish there was an audio option that was the commentary track or the behind-the-scenes stuff.
I think
Is it going to grow?
I hope so. I mean, Netflix, I think, tried it with House of Cards. I think they have like a Fincher commentary on that.
Excellent.
But I wish they were doing more of that for sure. And I think it's the Wild West right now in terms of special features in the streaming era, and I hope the studios figure it out because I do think there's some confusion, there's some trepidation, there's some hesitation about diving in the way they did when DVD was starting, because DVD was this huge explosion where everyone was kind of caught off guard, but in a positive way, and we got to do all kinds of crazy stuff, and we had nice budgets and total access to the cast and crew, and now it's kind of going back to the pre-DVD era where budgets are down and access is reduced. So I hope streaming gives it a new life. I don't think they've found the right way to do it yet. But
Yeah, I remember Contact, Jodie Foster's commentary track, unbelievably eye-opening as to what the process was, and that was really good for me, as an AD.
yeah.
So I don't want that to go away.
Well, and the good news is with Axanar is the Prelude to Axanar Blu-ray, which I believe is just now finished like hours ago.
It went to the printer yesterday.
Yeah. Christian Gossett, the director of Prelude, and Alec, they did separate commentary tracks, and I haven't heard them yet, but Rob says they're really insightful and really informative. And there's tons of other special features as well, which you might want to talk about. We saw a little bit of it yesterday. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
Yesterday.
It's a blur. Comic-Con's already a blur. We're only 3 days in. But yeah, it was called Dispatches from the 23rd Century. Is that what it's called? Rob cut together this featurette with just sort of interviews with Richard and Alec and everybody, and it's just it's great that even Prelude to Axanar, which is a relatively small feature or project, is getting the extras that you would usually afford a massive studio film.
I think the behind the scenes is 40 minutes and Prelude is 20.
But you're going to have behind the scenes. You're planning. See, this goes back to my thing about communication. You're planning about the behind the scenes for Axanar. It's part of the plan.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, in the Indiegogo, which you are all going to donate to, I know, there is a 5-disc deluxe Blu-ray soundtrack set, which will contain not only the soundtracks to Prelude and Axanar, by Alex Bornstein. It will also contain the Prelude to Axanar Blu-ray disc, the Axanar Blu-ray disc, and then a special features disc, which is going to have like 3 hours of behind-the-scenes footage. So we're already planning something that we haven't. I mean, we're shooting this in 6 months, and we're already planning what the behind-the-scenes is. But having Charlie, who's probably the top Blu-ray guy in Hollywood, along with Rob, who's done many of the behind-the-scenes. He did all of Star Trek: The Next Generation. All those Blu-rays are Rob Burnett produced and did all the interviews and everything. And then Cliff Stevenson, who is a good friend of ours, who is going to produce our Blu-ray set. And Cliff's real excited about it. He's done Hunger Games and Hannibal and many others. And so we literally have like the Blu-ray mafia doing our set. So it will be the most amazing. I mean, we're going to do like the Steelbook treatment on it. It's going to be ridiculous. But hey, you only do this once in your life. You might as well kick ass at it.
And actually, for people that are very much on the front lines dealing with all of the donors and such, Diana, you've got an army of 10,000 donors plus running around out there. You keep in line all the stuff, whether it's coming from fulfillment, the feedback, the direct donation questions. How do you keep it all straight? I mean, all of us would go loopy trying to handle that beast.
It's a lot of work. It's customer service, but I like to think of it more as communication because I really like people. So if you need my help, here's a little hint. Be really, really nice because I will love you for that. I will bend over backward for you. But if you come in and you're all cranky, then I'm going to be like, okay, fine, I'll help you, but
She's still really nice. Wait a second. Even the people, I get these emails sometime. Every once in a while, you get the donor that has not read any update you've sent out. I think we've sent out 86 updates in a year, and they haven't been to your website. And all of a sudden, they're like, "Where's my stuff? This is ridiculous. You're ripping me off." And I'm like, "Diana, would you handle this? Because I know if I handle it, it's not going to be good." And Diana's like, "Oh, hi." Well, and she writes this 2-paragraph email where she basically is the nicest person in the world. And I'm just like, wow, I could never do that. So come on, own up to it. You're good. You're nice to everyone. But if you're nice to her, you get extra. Or you mention Boomer, her cat, you get extra nice service.
Actually, Diana, you come up with a lot of the various kind of perk levels and stuff. Do you get a lot of feedback from people that are interested in being donors and stuff? As sort of things that they would want to have offered?
Sure. We love donor feedback on what they want. A lot of things that sound great are not feasible either because, it's really not anything that anyone would be interested in aside from them or because it's just way too much money. But there are so many things that we've gotten great ideas from. And we love that. We love it. We love the communication back and forth.
Was it your idea, the patch? Because the patches are great.
No, that's just a popular thing, and it,
Yeah, it's kind of like our patches kind of grew out of the space program, right? And the military, the military has patches, and we kind of when we were designing the uniforms, of which Diana is wearing one, it was kind of like, hey, that's my girlfriend. It was. We were like, well, military costumes always have patches on them. We're thinking like Navy flight jackets and stuff. And so we're in a war, and so we think, well, we should really have like a patch on the shoulder, or maybe each shoulder has a patch on. So we started developing these, and we never thought they would be as popular as they were. But we released 3 in the Prelude Kickstarter, and now you can get like this. I think for $100 you get 11 patches from every Kickstarter, and I know.
Yeah, but once you have one in your hand, you're like, oh man, this is cool.
Yeah. How many people in here who has an Axanar T-shirt on? Stand up if you have an Axanar T-shirt. Okay. Thank you. You even model them. All you people get a free. You all get a free poster and patch from Diana. You can see her afterwards. So, how many people in here are donors? Raise your hand. All right. If you are a donor, you get a free, which we usually sell for $20, USS Ares schematic poster. They will be in the back on the way out. So thank you for donating. And if you donate on the way out before, you'll get the poster too. So.
And you're on the honor system, so be honest-ish.
So we actually have about 10 minutes left. So there's a mic center front. If people have any particular questions, go ahead and queue up a line, and we'll kind of start things up. and the awesome AV guys going to make sure that's on. No, he's with the AV guy. He's making sure it's on for you.
That's me. Hi there, how are you going? Look, just for the benefit of you three here, I know, Alex, I've met you and Richard. Colin's my name. I'm actually from over in Australia, obviously. I'm actually a member of AusTrek. We're an official Star Trek fan club. We've been around, we're the second oldest in the world. We've been around since 1976. I was lucky enough last year to attend the Prelude to Axanar screening, which we've been discussing at the club, and the club has literally been following this with a passion. I'm always getting asked what's updates, what's happening, what's going on, to the point where 2 o'clock last night I was on the phone back home explaining to the guys what I heard in the panel yesterday. They're waiting for me to update this. One of the things I did mention was that 5-box set Blu-ray that you were explaining. The first thing they've come back with is to ask you, can you please do it region-free so we can actually be played overseas in Australia, New Zealand,
It is region
not
free.
just here in the US. If you can promote it as region free, you're going to have that many people signing up to get that. I can assure you.
I think Charlie can. At first, it's region free,
Oh,
and Charlie can
right.
speak more to this. But that's really a studio thing for marketing and.
Yeah, no, I mean, studios like to, different territories are kind of run by different aspects of different studios. I mean, it's kind of like a big mishmash of rights and whatever. But this Blu-ray and DVD is region free. You have nothing to worry about. You're good to go.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. That was louder than I thought it would be. I love Axanar. I love Prelude to Axanar. I'm really excited for this. I'm wondering. I'm also creating a fan Star Trek series, and I'm wondering. We're at the beginning stages. Like, how long has this process been for you in terms of the idea to actually, I don't know, doing your first Kickstarter? Like, how long has that process been?
25 years, you said earlier.
Sorry, I came in a little late. I just got it.
No, that's okay. It really started in 2010. I also collect Star Trek props and costumes, screen used ones, and I acquired the Garth of Izar costume that Steve Annette wore in Whom the Gods Destroy from a friend, and it's one of my holy grails. And so I was talking to James Coley of Star Trek New Voyages, the long-running fan film that's been around for like 11 years now, and we were talking about it, and he said, "Oh, well, we're doing this episode, and it's early Star Trek, and Garth would be around at that time. Why don't we put him in?" And I say, "Yeah, that's a very cool idea." He said, "Well, you need to come play him." And I said, "Oh, wow, that's even cooler." So that started, and he and I had lunch, and I told him that I had this story, and he said, "You need to write a script." And I started, I took a Robert McKee seminar. He's like the godfather of screenwriting, and I started writing it. So that was 2010. So literally, it will be 5.5 years before we get really rolling on principal photography for Axanar. Now, that being said, it's for 4 of those years up until this time last year, it was a part-time venture. It was not what I was doing full-time. Now it is literally full-time. So it all depends how much time you have to invest in it. But I think the key thing, which Richard keeps preaching, which he's right about, is take your time. Don't rush it. I see so many fan films. I've been involved with a lot of them. I've been on the set of a lot of them, and they rush things. And when you rush things and they don't plan things well, then you're compromising things. I know I'm a fan of Renegades, which had their, they just had their seminar, and they were talking about all the script rewrites. Well, that happened because there was, not to knock Renegades, because I love those guys, but I was on set and it was a nightmare, and it was a nightmare because there wasn't planning going on beforehand. That never should, that shouldn't happen. And those are guys who, listen, it happens to the best of us. So all I can say is plan, then plan some more, and make sure you have all that stuff, buttoned up before you do it, and do a test. This is like for us. This is our test. Do a test. See how it comes out.
And by the way, this scene that you saw, we were saying for the longest time, if it didn't work out, we would do it again. Like, this was the test, so let's see if we could make it work.
It was a test, but it turned out fantastic.
Yeah.
So get a camera and and find someone who find someone who knows how to shoot. We were lucky. We have a great DP. Renegades has a great DP, and Tristan Bernard, who worked as a camera operator on Prelude for us. Finding someone who knows how to swing a camera, that is so important. I can't stress enough how important that is. Or because listen, I would never do it. I don't have that skill set, and I go out and find brilliant people to do that. So that's the other thing. It's all about your team. I may be like the front man for Axanar, but Axanar doesn't happen unless I have great actors, great producers, someone who's managing all the donors, and a brilliant line producer along with everyone. I mean, I've got so many people here. Horace up front is one of our associate producers.
If you're
handles
part
film
of the
festivals.
cast or crew of Axanar, at some point, stand up real quick.
Yeah. Who's worked on Axanar? There you go.
Yes.
Are you going to produce? Are you the producer?
Yeah.
What's that?
Are you going to be the producer?
Yeah.
Have you been taught the production triangle yet?
Have I what?
Have you been taught about the production triangle at all?
I produced a lot of web series stuff, but what is the production triangle?
By the way, did you know that they have a film school here at Comic-Con?
Yeah. I'm going to go to the post-production and distribution one.
Nice.
By the way,
Sunday.
I just want. Did you finish? I'm sorry, I didn't want to jump in. Go ahead, finish.
It comes down to it's a simple axiom. Imagine a triangle in your head, and one line is good, and one is fast, and one is cheap. You can only turn two upright.
Yes.
So if you plan, you can do it less expensively and still be good.
Right.
If you're going to do it quick, you got to have money to throw at it. You just have to. So plan. Take your time. Make sure all the ducks are in a row, so that you don't need a 16-hour day to finish a show. You don't need to rewrite on the set. You got it done. You're ready to go. Now it's just time to get the performance. And the more takes you get with the actors, the better it's going to be. The more time you get to work on performance, the better it's going to be. So optimize, get everything out of the way so that when the cameras roll, it's the actor's turn, and you capture the best performance you can get.
Cool. Thank you all.
I wanted to add one quick thing.
Yeah.
The biggest problem I see with young filmmakers, they try to do too much. Start simple. Why? There's so much involved in putting something together, but sometimes just do it simple. You learn so much each time that you do it. Make a small little 5-minute piece with a beginning, middle, and end. Go through the process. See how it works. Learn about equipment. And then slowly begin to find out who you want to work with, because everybody wants to be on board when you're going to do something. And then I can't tell you the problems you have when you realize that some people show up, many people don't. People give you a half-ass effort. They say they're going to do this, they don't. You start learning very quickly who you want to work with eventually, and you got to build that team. But if you just start simple, you're going to have a lot more time to really put your heart and soul into that little 5-minute piece, and then come back and do a little bit longer piece. And slowly build your team, slowly build your expertise, learn your lessons, and don't try to bite off too big of a chunk, because a lot of people, when it doesn't turn out, they give up, they walk away. And, they could be very talented, but they give up way too soon. So, again, start with something simple, put it together, get some people, and this is the big one. In the beginning, I know all your friends are going to want to be in your production, okay? I get that. But you could have a really good story and great dialogue with some really bad actors, okay? And it ruins it. So there's a lot of wonderful actors out there that are not working. Take your time, do some casting, really find, to the best of your ability, the best actors you can.
And don't always assume they're going to say no. You would, it's amazing, the actors, the quality actors that, you'll see here talking on the stage, and if you ask them, look, I've got this little thing, and I can't pay you, but I can buy you a sandwich, and they'll go, send me the script. Seriously, you send them a script, they go, I like this, I'll do it. I don't ever assume someone's going to say no. That is, in all my businesses I've had, you never say no for someone else. Let them say no. But I'm telling you, it's, I'm lucky that, Richard, I've known Richard for 20 years, and so it was great that he said yes. He could have said no to me, but all the other actors, I didn't know them. And so don't assume someone's going to say no to you, but build your team.
We had Dean Cundy, the DP for Jurassic Park, Apollo 13, come work on our Battlestar Galactica Second Coming trailer. Worked a full day, brought his 35 millimeter camera, 2,000 feet of 35 millimeter film, and worked with a cold hamburger, you know. And it just goes to show you when somebody, you know, likes you, likes what you have to say, and they're not working, a lot of times these people will come on board and support you just to help you, to mentor you. There's a lot of really gifted, talented, smart people out there that are just dying to be able to lend their energy, their expertise. So again, you know, don't limit the possibilities, but start small and take it one step at a time.
I think Orion has something to say here.
Hi.
He's the voice of John Gill. Yeah, and leverage Star Trek. I'm telling you, leverage Star Trek. Everyone loves Star Trek. Yeah. I'm making a Star Trek film. Oh yeah, I'll be in it. I'm sorry.
And actually, that's about it for our time
Thank you.
today. Thank you all for having come. Thanks. Have a great time at Comic-Con.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Donors, go get your posters. Then you get a poster. Indiegogo has an app.